Now somebody's asking me over there in the chatty room a little while ago, man, I'm so in tune with nature, but yet I'm caught up in all my personal pain and I just can't seem to get out of it. And I'm going, oh yeah, baby, I understand. You see, what we're looking at here is a change that's bigger than anything we could even imagine. I mean, you take this world and you can turn it completely upside down and backwards, and then you've got it frontwards. Then you start to understand how significant the change is that we're facing. It goes right down to our base behaviors and then some. It deals with all the conditioning and the programming we've gone through the generations that's been passed down to us as human behavior, which it most certainly is not. Humans are naturally the children of creation. Our natural position here is to sit here and glow and experience creation as it creates through us. That is our natural place here. And that is real nature. Now you tune into nature around you, yeah, and you see kind of a harsh world. You know, something that has oppositions in it and dog-eat-dog kind of stuff going on. This one eats that one and that one eats this one and everybody gets along because we eat the weak ones, not the strong, and so on and so forth, you know. And see, that's just one form of nature which is tremendously influenced by the crap that the human being is going through, because the human being is the creation, the children of creation, the replication of the mother love which does create. Now you got to think about that. That's why we, get channeled off into music and watercolors and oils and dance and every kind of art we can think of, because we are creative beings. And when we're not living creatively, then we got to have our outlets for our creativity. Limited outlets, see? This is a limited reality. And that's what we're subject to here, all kinds of limitations. And even pain can be this limitation, because there's a part of us that gets addicted to the pain. And it has to get honest with itself about that addiction before it can ever get free of it. You see, and most people in this life are completely addicted to this pain. One way or the other. We do things to foment it subconsciously without even thinking about it. And the next thing you know, we got an argument on our hands. We got a situation on our hands. Somebody's acting up. Because we need the intrigue to keep us going. We need the pain to provide the motivation. We've gotten so accustomed to it through the generations that it seems like without the pain there'll be no motivation. You see, and this is why your body clings to it. Mine included, we have our areas, man, where we still keep picking on ourselves. See, I'm telling you, it's the worst addiction ever, because it's one of the hardest ones to give up, right there next to food and so forth, Again, that we think is normal and natural, which ain't necessarily so. You got to remember, we live in a backwards world where everything is a lie, including the hungers that we feel for food, for love, for sex, for money, for anything. You want to spend some time in nature so you can feel the real nature coming forward within you. Now, what is real nature? That's life all aglow, happily so. That's when you allow yourself to feel happy in your cells and atoms, in the little subatomic structures you're made of. When you allow yourself to feel the tininess, then you start to feel the largeness in the tininess and the unity in your creation. And when you see the unity that forms you, then you begin to see the unity in the creation all around you. It's all that same subatomic structure. See, and we have to move beyond all of our fetishes, all of our hang-ups, all of our pains, in order to see and be this. And babies, it fills you so full that there will never be an empty feeling again, which is where addictions are rooted. In the emptiness, in the powerless feelings. The great lie, in other words. Human beings are the ultimate power. We have the full capability of creation within each and every one of us. We're divine angels reduced to a lower status in order to experience all the more refined aspects of creation that we didn't even want to think of. But we had to think of and go through in a limited sort of way in order that our true person could come out to play, fueled by the fires of appreciation. Because when you're spoiled little children that have only lived in the light and you only know love, well, you're kind of worthless. I mean, you only create loving things and everything, but there's no sizzle, there's no fire, there's no passion in it. It's just there. We had to reduce ourselves to a state that was almost the complete opposite of what we truthfully are, to a state of powerlessness. Hence the little baby child that seems so powerless in this reality. Can't even change its own diet, can't feed itself, and cries in frustration all the time. Yet, in that child is the ultimate power of creation given. And we're here living these lives in order to remember and relearn that ultimate power of creation. So if you feel like you're not catching on and you're hung up on pain or whatever, emptiness, aloneness, I mean, I can relate. The areas of relationships and sex have been such a difficult life for us to deal with. And we've got these deep-rooted desires that have been extremely reprogrammed, that tell us the answer's in another, that we've got to have this twin flame soulmate, blah, 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 blah. You see, the change goes beyond everything we know in this reality. And we never need to look at another with need in our heart whatsoever, or objectify a person in any way. Wow, what a hot little dish, what a hot little number, what a hunk of male, etc. You know what I mean? When we're finally satisfied and completely content within ourselves, then we can become the greatest lovers ever known to creation, because that's what we are anyway. You see, when we're little children, we're totally fascinated by the things that we've created here, especially upon our person. But we get a warped, twisted view from our ancestors and, given through our parents usually. Don't you touch that, don't you, man, and it starts the trauma right away and disconnects you from the very areas where your heart could reconnect and know itself more fully, more pleasantly than it ever has before. But you see, it goes up another level. It's not just sex as we know it. You see, that is a disappointing thing because there's so much built into it in expectations, and so little comes out of it until you learn how to be a real lover. And that takes some doing. It isn't just like Hollywood where the boy and the girl climb in the sack and everything's just wonderful. It doesn't often happen that way, though sometimes it does. Hollywood's not a total fiction, but mostly. You see, and all of us get into trouble, no matter how well-matched we might be and how psychically inclined we are connected to be and so on and so forth. I've been in some really sweet relationships and I've been in some really sour ones. I know how this works, at least to an extent. And I know I'm different than the vast bulk of humanity, yet I'm the same as all of us. So I can speak with some authority on this subject, and I know exactly what I'm dealing with as a person even now. And that's to see beyond these base urges that have been programmed into thinking that somebody of the opposite sex has the answer, or that anyone else has any answer. I mean, sure, we help each other out, we prop each other up, we support each other all the time, whether we know it or not. Whether we feel isolated or unisolated or anywhere in between, etc. We're still in service to the bulk of humanity, no matter what we're doing or how we're living. You can sit on a mountain and be completely connected with all of humanity. You know, just asking those old gurus that have done it, man, shit. And then sooner or later they come off the mountain, though, because they realize the real connections in being there in the middle of it and being the influence. You can influence from the outside, but it's best influenced from the inside. When you go there and glow there in the midst of them and show them how it's done. See, that's why we got to get this old coyote bus and get this old radio show on the road a bit. I mean, you know, we got to let people know and feel the glow and get it out there and demonstrate it, don't you know, so that everybody else starts to catch on too. Because every human being, no matter who you are, has the complete capability of enlightenment. Every one of us. Enlightenment meaning realizing the childlike aspect of our innocence, so that we can get on with our duties in creation and not be distracted by the old slavery that we've served under for so long. Yeah, this is why you always hear me encouraging you. Don't go to work today. Get out in nature. Go play. Get some sunshine on your skin. Get some understanding in your conscious presence. Turn yourself free. Set yourself free. Be that which you are. See, sometimes we have to get away from the servitude in this life in order to realize what servitude really is and how we're applying it already. And how to better apply it in our lives, because there's something real obvious that we're missing. Do you ever have that feeling? Well, follow that feeling next time you have it. If you feel like there's something real obvious that you're missing, but you're looking at your list and you got everything covered, well, maybe what's not on the list is what you ought to be paying attention to then. Maybe there's a deeper element here. Maybe there's a way human beings can be the greatest lovers ever known anywhere. If we just allow ourselves to return to the innocence that we feel inside. That which sees so clearly and purely, that which feels so clearly and purely, can feel the submolecular, the subatomic inside of themselves, and see it glittering back at it from all of the creation around it. Then it starts to understand why it's here. It's to celebrate this life and to encourage it and to foment more and more an ever-increasing realm of experience, so we can expand on all the avenues and aspects of love and see how far creation can take this. To move beyond all limitations. Love is without limit or condition. To really realize that, you got to step completely beyond the 3D world, because it's total bullshit. And just about everything here is a total upside down lie, including the feelings we feel. They've been realigned deceptively, so that we have pains, passions, hungers that are unnatural to us. Though they feel natural to a certain extent because they are so programmed and repeated through the generations of the past. But see, we were born different. We knew better all along. You remember the same conflict as a child as I do, looking at the world around you. You were young and wise, but nobody could appreciate that, except maybe you. Now, as you're looking back to moments like that where you saw through it completely, yet you still felt like you had to do the surrender and become what they wanted you to be, at least to a certain extent. This world requires a lot of you, and it's a complete giving up of the heart if you go all the way with it, which most folks don't. Most folks just go to a limited degree, and therefore are limited for the rest of their life by the various fetishes and addictions that we develop here, that become a comfort zone to us subconsciously. Yet, the conscious mind is aware of that subconscious presence. And when you become aware of it too, that's when the changes will happen. That's when you start to understand what real nature is. Real nature is this flow, this glow that you feel in your subatomic particles that comprise all of creation. That's where real love is. That's what love is. Love is that creation. Love is you and I and all the rest of this creation in motion and all of the experience in it, and it is rich beyond belief. Well, where's Elmer Fudd when I need him? Oh boy, I'm rich. I can't do his voice very well. If I was Robin Williams, I could. I do voices, eh? Well, so do you. Voices from the past are speaking to you now and asking you if you please won't question your basic ideas of life, your basic inclinations. Get right down to the root of them and go past it. You see? And you'll find out, yeah, you don't need anyone or anything because you're already connected with everything and you already know it intimately. And when you feel that, when you know that as a factual reality, not just words that somebody's saying, not just an idea that somebody's conveying, but when you know that, when you live that, then you've become that love and you'll understand. And you'll no longer deal with this life from a needy standpoint ever. There will never be desperation in your life again, not ever. Nor should there ever be, really. And we are the ultimate power of creation. And real nature works through us to bring about the creation we live in. Even in this nightmarish dream where it doesn't seem like love is a fleeting thing and you grab a little here and grab a little there and get on with it. Nuh-uh. Real life is so filled with love, it's completely content within itself. And that's the state of being we're moving into as we allow our heart to open and our presence to feel, right down to the submolecular and the subatomic, right down to the tiny particles that everything is made of, right down to the tiny love that is gigantic as all of creation and lives in every bit of it, right down to the conscious presence that is living in every bit of it, and that's you and all the rest of these persons too. It's not just humans, it's everything. We break it down to a personal experience. We learn how to handle that experience in a personal way. Then we've got something to share universally. And the personal experience becomes available to the most disconnected of lives. And everything becomes reconnected in full presence of its own loving glory. And returns to its natural, soft, sweet power. That's why mothers are conveyed in soft, sweet images. That's why the divine feminine always has the softness to it, no matter what the representation is. Look at Mary Jane, what does it do? It softens you up so you can get along your way and start to understand your own heart. You see, that is the nature of the mother. That is also the nature of creation. And it can't help but create. Do you realize that every time you have a little sexual orgasm, you're creating new life? And it's not always a baby in the belly either, thank goodness, because that's awful complicated, isn't it? But every time you have an orgasmic experience, rather than passing life on, you're creating life. You're starting to have a little suggestion, a remembrance of what it is to be creative. Now that scares a lot of people because orgasms are so intense and powerful here. Well, powerful's the right word, but intense it doesn't have to be. It should be content, soft, sweet, not hard and harsh. It should flow through you like a meandering stream, made of warm, sweet, soft water that just embraces every speck of you as it passes along its way. This is real love. This is when you become a real lover. And you're no longer into techniques and positions and shit like that. But you're into love. And whatever form of expression it wants to take. And you're not all hung up on doing the woo-hoo with the woo-hoo. But you're hung up on the heart. Completely free to be what that heart requires you to be and to share it as nature would have it. Being shared. This is when we move into the higher elements of love. This is when we rediscover our personal nirvana. And it's all there in the sensuous nature. All there in the feelings, every bit of it. The stuff we are taught to be afraid of. And to fear mightily, because it's an area where there's a lot of sin. If you even think the wrong thoughts, you've done a sin. See how they've demarcated us away from our normal inclinations and installed this sexual attitude instead. And you notice how overamped and overfocused that is in this reality. I wonder why. Could it be that's the biggest lie, and so it's constantly reinforced? That it's total bullshit to think you can settle it with another person when you can't even settle it in yourself? And that's why there's been frustration through the generations. If you want to settle it, you don't look outside yourself, you look inside yourself first and foremost. You get that peaceful contentment going on. Then you got something to share. And some mighty, awesome, and respectful and expansive ways to share it. Stuff you've never even thought of before. Because human beings in this limited world have been extremely limited in their areas of romantic inclination. Intimacy, in other words. And for all the goodness we've been able to achieve there, it's so limited. It's so empty. I mean, compared to where it can be, to where it honestly is, when we finally rediscover the higher elements of our love, which is the normal and natural way. And it's not a dog-eat-dog thing. It's not intense like that at all. It's very intense, but in a pleasing and pleasant way that's soft, the way a baby would experience an orgasm. It ain't intense. It's something that makes it giggle and laugh. And sigh a long sigh of contentment. Because that's what it is. And contentment comes from what? Understanding yourself. Seeing your position in this world, in this reality, in this creation. And being happy about it. Because you're right in the right place, right where you need to be right now. Don't you see? Now it takes a bit of doing to move into that perspective, because your mind really has to stretch to allow the heart to have this much quote control. Mind not understanding the heart's always been in control. You know, there was some genetic alteration went on a few million years ago that made us feel disconnected from our heart and put a mental process in its place. Shit, the heart doesn't go away. It's the very center of our life, the very center of creation, and always will be and always has been. We just lived in some lies for a while. A world of illusion. Why do you think there's so much deception here? Because the whole thing's a deception. And it's easy to deceive those that are already deceived. It's the way it works. But we chose this world of deception as a part of our grander experience. And we all come out of it far better, far greater for it. Far more sure and steady in our path in creation than we ever were before. So now you're starting to catch on, you're starting to get what it takes, and why I advise you to free yourself up and take the time that you need in order to awaken fully to that innocent presence inside. So you can finally feel And you won't be driven by all these insane little fetishes that we've been so hung up in. You won't feel that ancient hunger every time you look at a woman or a man, etc. You'll move past that. You'll reconnect with your mother love. And when you do, you become a whole and complete person inside without argumentative parts. And all the fetishes and the warps and weird desires go out the window. Because you begin to see clear in the same way a baby does. Innocently so. But you're fully empowered now because you're not a little baby in diapers anymore. And you're free to express and experience as you will. And that's the freest place I know of being. When you finally let yourself feel right down to the subatomic, right down to the full presence of your creation, which is everything around you too. There is no real separation between you and the rest of it. Everything is made of the same stuff you are. And that stuff is a person. It's called creation. I call it the mother love, the desire to create. It's what our orgasms here can merely suggest to us, even as they're creating life all around you. Sometimes not in the best of ways, because you put out a warped energy when you're going about it all ass backwards, don't you know? See, real love has a flow, and it's innocent just like everything else, you know. And therefore, you know, we have to unwind a lot of the sexual practices we've learned, a lot of the romance and intimacy we've shared. We have to unlearn a lot of that and learn it from the ground up again, just like little kids. Because the elements we're moving into now have very little to do with the elements we've employed in the past. It's that different, vastly different. That's why it takes some expansion to get into it, to really understand the art of creation and the love-making that causes creation to create. You see? And this is when you move into your personal power. And the only thing you share is that personal power. The great love in it, of course. But it becomes exponential. It's like the nuclear explosion. Unite two molecules into creation and enlighten them as to their position and power in life. And then ones around them start to catch on too. And pretty soon the whole person of creation is healed and consciously present in every little element of itself, because you allowed yourself to be present in every little element of yourself. That's the key, that's the ticket to paradise. To feel it in that minute sort of way that's as large as the whole universe. To break it down to subunity, yet it's all unified. And it's all one big personal person that our personal person can only suggest and reflect, you see, and experience. We are the experiential vessels of love. We're meant for the grandest moments of love that could ever be. And that's what we've been preparing ourselves for throughout all of this that we call human history. That's why it's been such a mystery, baby. But why it comes through so clear now. The timing's just right. It's our turn. And here's to you and all of you that burn. May you find the illusion of flame and see past it. You're some of the most noble hearts to ever live in this reality. Do you realize that? It takes that kind of nobility to survive this shit and thrive despite tremendous adversity and our addictions to pain, etc. Start now by being honest within yourself about what you truthfully feel. And if you see in that you are addicted to pain or any other particular behavior or feeling, don't fight, don't struggle. Just see that and be honest about it, and you'll get the help of the whole universe that'll just sweep you along, and pain will no longer be your existence. And then the contentment becomes possible, and the divine creative orgasm that goes with it. You ready for this? I reckon you better be, because it's here and it's now and it's happening. And how? So says Grandpa Coyote. That Coyote Way here on that Coyote Medicine Show on a Coyote Day we call Free Day, Coyote Friday. Holy.